Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. 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 Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om. Yesterday we received an email Last few days we were going through intense sadhana on the topic how to become one with Him. We feel that this will be possible only by the total surrendering of me and mine. Can you expound on the topic total surrendering, me and mine to Him? It is very difficult because surrender is not a thing to be understood intellectually. Because that is a stage, that's a stage where we experience that He is within us and He is making us to do. So, it is not that directly we can go and acquire this knowledge of surrender, probably by trying to eliminate that which denies us to surrender. That effort might succeed. Because it is not a thing to learn, no? Any word about surrender cannot make us surrender. Right from the day you start coming to ashram, every day religiously at the Arati time, immediately after Ramnam session ends, we read universal prayer. Those of us who have been coming for ashram for decades, 50, 60, 70 years or 30, 40, 50 years. Whenever we come, we have great respect, faith in Papa. We have faith in Ramnam. We enjoy coming to ashram. We enjoy taking part in all the programs. We love everything here. So we also join in the Arati program, Ramnam program, and the prayer program. Before the Marathi version of universal prayer starts, Prabhu Vishwanatha, we are reading O Lord of the Universe. O Lord of the universe, O Creator, Protector, Destroyer of the world, I come in all humility to thy holy feet and surrender myself entirely to thee. Every day we are reminded, no? But have we been able to do that? At least are we starting to surrender? Kindly think about it. It is just a prayer we are reading. Somebody will read, and then other prayers we can repeat. In this prayer, we will also say not to repeat, but travel with the theme. Because surrender is the pet word of Papa. Because his life is a total surrender to him. So even if we give lectures for hours together, still we are away from surrender. No. It took a lot of time for us to understand why it cannot be. And one day, Papa made us. Then he says, normally every sadhaka thinks that progress in sadhana can be had with the triune path, but later on, experience teaches this is not possible by sadhana alone. Only by totally surrendering to the divine, who is the very base or support of sadhana, can the goal be achieved. Self-surrender means to surrender oneself to the divine will. If we realize that the I sense is utterly false, and that it is God's will and power alone that is responsible for all my movements and changes taking place in the entire universe, then we know what self-surrender is. Self-surrender means to surrender oneself to the divine will. If we realize that the I sense is utterly false, and that it is God's will and power alone that is responsible for all movements and changes taking place in the entire universe, then we know what self-surrender is. This state of consciousness can be dawned in us only when God thought runs in the mind in a ceaseless and continuous stream. That surrender is possible only in the mind where there is ceaseless and continuous stream of remembrance. So constant remembrance and meditation of God automatically leads to self-surrender. What comes in the way of one's achieving it is the ego sense. Therefore, ours is to surrender our relative I to the cosmic I, relative life to the absolute life. In other words, we have to stand on the ashes of our cremated ego. Surrender is not a verbal assertion. Surrender is not a mental acceptance, but a state of consciousness. That is why it cannot be explained. That is why, in spite of our repeating that prayer every day, those of us who are in the ashram, those of the devotees who come and stay for a few days and they take part, none of them will miss this prayer every day. I surrender myself totally, O Lord of the universe, O Creator, Protector, Destroyer of the world, I come in all humility to thy holy feet and surrender myself entirely to you. It is a verbal assertion, no? So that is why Papa clearly mentions. And this is a very tall order for all of us. We have to stand on the ashes of our cremated ego. When we bury, there is a likelihood that it will resurrect. When cremation takes place, total dismantling. So we have to stand, in other words, we have to stand on the ashes of our cremated ego. Surrender is not a verbal assertion, it is not a mental acceptance, but a state of consciousness. So now the question is the I, which wants to become aware that it owes its very existence to that power. What should it do? So that ultimately we get that consciousness, a state of consciousness which is called surrender. So one thing is becoming clear, surrender is the outcome of some process. And the peculiarity of this process is it should be like the salt doll getting into the water to measure its depth. The moment the salt doll enters into water, you know what happens. It becomes one with the water. It loses its separate identity. So that is the word in it. I come in all humility to thy holy feet as a salt doll and surrender myself entirely to thee. Right from the thoughts that I am doing sadhana, I am doing sadhana to surrender. That particular thought denies the very surrender. So we cannot start with the thought. So we will do the other way, that would be better. We try to recall and repeat 1,000 times, of what all he has done right from our seed level up to this level. We have to repeat. I was a seed in my mother's womb, not because of the present I, which uses to understand surrender. No, it was not there. When it started growing, during the 9.5 months, this thought, which is trying to surrender, was not there. When the child comes out, it did not carry anything. The one who is now trying to totally surrender was not there. Whatever that is required for the child to exist, it has been provided by that power which gave the seed in the form of Mother Nature. This I, who is trying to surrender, was not there. It had no role in creating the Mother Nature. When the child started growing, as it grows, it needed creature comforts one by one. And this I, which tries to understand surrender and surrender, had no role in any of the had no role in bringing out any of the creature comforts. So anytime when we open our eyes, when we see anything, if there is a subtle effort to understand the bounteous gifts of the great provider, the dominance of me and mine will become lesser and lesser. It starts slowly realizing. Because from the seed level, all the development has taken place, it is because of existence of a power, and this I had no role in that, and the same power still continues to exist. And this I, which had absolutely no role up to this moment, tries to forget itself. It cannot. There could be so many methods, but this seems to be the practical method. That is why we are going to temples, we are going to ashrams, to get a taste of this, to know all these things. Not to learn Shastras, but to realize the thing that He is the great provider who has been providing right from the seed level. So anything that comes before us, initially, at least a few things that comes before us, we try to keep on analyzing it, reflecting over it, contemplating over it, seeing His hand in it. Suppose we are alone, we are breathing, we are walking, we suddenly feel the breathing, otherwise we are not even aware of the breathing. You have provided air for me to breathe. You have provided the earth for me to move about, to exist. You have provided the space for me to move about. You have provided water for me to drink. You have provided the temperature in my body, 98.4 degree Fahrenheit. You have provided a heart and it beats. You have provided the digestive machinery. You have provided the circulating machinery. You have provided the such other things which excretes my whatever that is to be purged out. So, so becoming aware of, instead of going through some theories, becoming aware of his bounteous gifts on our very existence. Initially, a few, and gradually we try whenever there is a pause moment, whenever there is an opportunity, even the period ever so small, we try to remember. That is why Papa says, constant remembrance and meditation of God automatically leads to self-surrender. When he said it's a state of consciousness, that consciousness can dawn in us only when God thought runs in the mind in a ceaseless and continuous stream. We will again read. Normally, every sadhaka thinks that progress in the sadhana can be had with the triune path, Nam Seva Dhyan. But later on, experience teaches that it is not possible by sadhana alone. Only by totally surrendering to the divine, who is the very base or support for sadhana, can the goal be achieved. Even the very sadhana, triune path, Nam Seva Dhyan, I am trying to practice only because he is there. So the triune path, at certain stage, it should leave us and enable us to enjoy. Papa says, the Nama and the Nami become one. No? You drink and drink and drink and become, until the drinker and the drink become one. In Seva, we become one with that object. Anything that we do, when we say touch of love, touch of perfection, touch of gratitude, touch of dedication, ultimately it leads to become one with it. No? If I become one with the Nama, if I become one with the Seva, if I become one with the Dhyana, then I will not be there. That is why the other day, you remember, some of you might be remembering, suppose we go for a morning walk and we see a tree, immediately the tree is a tree we are seeing, then our contemplative, reflective mind enables us to know that tree is a word pasted on that existence. In English, TREE, when the English letters were not there, it is not that the tree was not there. So the tree was there, and as every object carries a label. That is how somebody who said, this is tree. And from him, everybody started hearing, and we have also reached generations it has been going on, and we also look at that existence and say it is tree. So here, as a spiritual aspirant, we are asked to look at the tree and remove the label. what was that which stood now, which does not carry the label? So one morning when we try to do that, we will probably try to get some nearness to the question. Because it is purely an experience. We cannot hear, because the moment the label is removed, it is the thought that connects. Label is a thought that connects to the object. It is the thought that connects the object with the label. So label is that which a thought that is connecting to the object. So when that label is removed, nothing can be explained.
Labeling was taught as a child. When we are children, no, it was taught labeling all the things. Actually, we don't know. We just see.
Think. Because when we were children, we were not knowing anything. So somebody identifies it, this is that, this is that, this is that.
Labeling is
Labeling. Labeling is the, now we realize, labeling means bringing the thought and pasting on the existence. So when we remove the label, what remains cannot be explained. Because the label is a product of thought. The thought is removed. When Papa said, look without seeing, this will become clear only when we attempt, no words, no jugglery of words will not help us. At that time, what we get, what we experience, is that. So when we say surrender is not a verbal assertion, it is not a mental acceptance, but a state of consciousness, a state of consciousness where subject-object is not there, no. Not that it is moving away. It raises to a higher level where there is no subject and object. And come down, there is no subject and object. A stage where the subject-object is not the separation. There is no seer, look without seeing. There is no seer and therefore there is no seen. Look without seeing. Seeing means a seer seeing, the seen. Seer seeing the seen. When he says look without seeing, the seer and the seen is not there. We cannot explain, no? How subjective is that subject, where nothing can be brought. This is that. So it is purely an experience, a consciousness. Self-surrender means to surrender oneself to the divine will. If we realize that the I sense is utterly false, then it is God's will and power alone that is responsible for all movements and changes taking place in the entire universe. Then we know what self-surrender is. This state of consciousness can dawn in us only when God thought runs in the mind in a ceaseless and continuous stream. So constant remembrance and meditation of God automatically leads to self-surrender. What comes in the way of one's achieving it is the ego sense. Therefore, ours is to surrender our little I to the cosmic I, relative life to the absolute life. In other words, we have to stand on the ashes of our cremated ego. Surrender is not a verbal assertion, it is not a mental acceptance, but a state of consciousness. Presently, the sense of individuality is arrogating within us by saying, I am doing this, I am this, I am that. We do not realize that we exist because of the life God within us. If the life is not there, the sense of individuality will not exist even for a second. Life is the expression of Atman, though seemingly two, they are one. In the state of surrender, the body becomes a willing instrument. The mind is enlightened with the divine radiance, and the soul unites and identifies with the Supreme Spirit. The final capping, it's so beautiful. In the state of surrender, the body becomes a willing instrument. The mind is enlightened with the divine radiance, and the soul unites and identifies with the Supreme Spirit. Now we probably we will also.
Swamiji, please once again repetition, please.
Can you repeat once again, same thing again?
That portion.
Last.
It has got a main significance. Mind is full with divine radiance and
normally every sadhaka thinks that progress in the sadhana can be had with the triune path. Nam, Seva, Dhyan.
Yes.
But later on experience teaches us that this is not possible by sadhana alone. Because we are the, we know that, we have been doing it now.
Yes.
So we were not able to get it. The very fact that every day when we repeat, I come in all humility to thy holy feet and surrender myself entirely to thee. How many years we have been doing? So then, self-surrender means to surrender oneself to the divine will. If we realize that the I sense is utterly false, if we realize, and that it is God's will and power alone that is responsible for all movements and changes taking place in the entire universe, then we know what self-surrender is. This state of consciousness can dawn in us only when God thought runs in the mind in a ceaseless and continuous stream. So constant remembrance and meditation of God automatically leads to self-surrender. What comes in the way of one's achieving it is the ego sense. Therefore, ours is to surrender our little I to the cosmic I.
Yes, Swamiji. Afterwards,
In other words, we have to stand on the ashes of our cremated ego. Surrender is not a verbal assertion, it is not a mental acceptance, but a state of consciousness. Presently, the sense of individuality is arrogating within us by saying, I am doing this, I am that. We do not realize that we exist because of the life God within us. If the life is not there, the sense of individuality will not exist even for a second. Life is the expression of the Atman. Though seemingly two, they are one. In the state of surrender, the body becomes a willing instrument, the mind is enlightened with the divine radiance, and the soul unites and identifies with the Supreme Spirit.
Hari Om, Swami.
So this is one of the most
Thank you.
important subjects.
Thank you, Hari Om.
And here, our intellect, or our shastras, or our sadhana, plead its inability to take us further.
Yes.
So we have to leave everything and then enter into the experiential realm. And then when we come back to our normal state, we will be a changed person. The experiential learning will have its impact in all our thoughts, words and deeds. Thereafter, nobody will ask or nobody will try for surrender, because the surrender has taken place, then only this can come. So far, then we realize now whatever we are doing, we are not moving an inch towards surrender. Even when we go to a saint or seek blessings, we will put it in such a way as to how he should bless us. We will not surrender. Think about it. We will put it in such a way. I am planning to buy a site. So many things have been done. The loan that has been passed. I want your blessings, Swamiji. You will say that. So that means you have no choice. You have to say, we pray for the blessings so that your sankalpa is fulfilled. That's all. Your sankalpa. So it does not go to the surrender at all. You have the satisfaction that you have asked Papa for the blessings, and he has given you the blessings. So this is because this is a state which cannot be within the purview of this seeking and getting it. Papa is emphatic. There should not be any confusion at all. It is not a verbal assertion. I surrender myself entirely to you. It's a verbal assertion.
But it's humility, isn't it?
Eh?
Humility, it should be.
Humility is there.
Whatever, we don't say anything. First of all, this we are trying to understand what is self-surrender. Humility is not a thing that can be learnt, It is a spontaneous revelation of that. Suppose we learn about lecture, we take a PhD in humility, it doesn't mean we will be humble. Actually, we will not become humble at all. You remember we shared many years ago, many years ago, I think must be in 2000 or somewhere. We went to we were touring Tamil Nadu, and then we went to the place called Dindigal. And on our way, we happened to know that we are passing through Gandhigram. So when we started going deep into Gandhian works in our early period, then we have come to know of one great soul, Ramchandraji Maharaj. He had set up a Gandhigram with an idea that the Gandhian philosophy should be passed on to the generation who would not have had any opportunity to see Gandhiji, to know about Gandhiji. So with everything, and there is a Gandhigram. So it was our keen desire to visit. So when we went there, as we see in our ashram, there are so many structures. Not like Sevagram where when we go, it is still maintaining its originality. So here we have got lot of buildings. We stopped our vehicle, we asked somebody, is there any particular, so it's called university now. Where can we go to, we can meet somebody who is in charge of Gandhian studies. Then they showed us a particular building, we went there. Pakka office. So we introduced ourselves, and then we were discussing with them about what is happening, and finally we put a question. It is not to evaluate your performance, because we are also starting something like this on value-based education for the growing generation. So we should not get disillusioned later. So only for that purpose we are asking this question. This institution has come into existence since a quite long time. You have been imparting this Gandhian education, Gandhian thoughts. Have you found a few persons who are really living that? I know it is an embarrassing question to the institution itself. So I said it's not to wound anybody, just he was a very matured, highly matured Gandhian, no doubt. He looked at us, there was a pause moment, he smiled. And finally he said, like this, he said, maybe one or two, maybe. Suddenly it struck to us, passing on academically is the only way to convey these sublime, noble teachings. So they are absolutely right. But when we look at the outcome, we find it remains at you can write. When I take a PhD in Gandhian studies, I will be able to give lectures, I will be able to answer questions, because my mind is fully filled up with Gandhian thoughts academically. And too much of academic thoughts will prevent me from not, because the ego is boosted, So the fundamental principle of Gandhian thought is subservience to a higher power. He continued to say I, but at the same time he always brings this God into picture. Whatever I do, whether it is social, political, personal, the central purpose is to realize God. So it is a spiritual study, Gandhian study means it is a spiritual study. On that day it became very clear. It is exactly like this surrender. Only through hearing the word we get some idea about surrender. But it cannot take us further. Absolutely zero. Because why it is zero, now we realize that the one seeking to surrender exists only because of the the higher power. Surrendering to the higher power is surrender, and even we are finding it difficult to express, surrendering to the higher power is surrender. And here somebody wants to surrender. So even the prompting to surrender comes from him only. Just like I am now looking at something. At the same time, this looking process cannot look at the one which makes me to look. It is because of that power the looking process is there. So the looking, only because of the power behind, only because of the power behind the looking is possible. Similarly, looking is not possible, looking is incapable of looking for the one who is looking. It is absolutely not possible. That is why Papa put beautifully, it is not a verbal assertion, it is not a mental acceptance, it is a state of consciousness. And in one of the poems he said this, we have to stand on the ashes of our cremated ego. We can read that word, enjoy the presentation, but we are nowhere near that now. Because when we cremate, we are not there now. Simple truth. When we are cremated, how can we say when we cremate? When we are cremated, we are not there now. Think. In a poem, self-surrender is real, Papa's poem. So long as lower nature does persist and ego has you under its spell, so long as soul experience has not lifted you to the height of infinite joy and peace, so long as meekness, purity and love do not adorn your expressed life, mind you, self-surrender is real for you. Surrender your little eye to the cosmic eye, relative to the absolute life, halting, stumbling, ignorant self to the flowing, all blissful, enlightened self. Do not deceive, do not be deceived. Stand on the ashes of your cremated ego and know and declare with all your being, I am the eternal, ever free, the only one, resplendent truth. I am all and all in all. Once again, so long as lower nature does persist and ego has you under its spell, so long as soul experience has not lifted you to the height of infinite joy and peace, you got the poem book here? No, not necessary. So it is clear, the ashes of do not be deceived to the flowing, all blissful, enlightened self. Do not be deceived. Stand on the ashes of your cremated ego and know and declare with all your being, I am the immortal, ever free, the only one resplendent in truth. I am all and all in all. So when should I surrender? That is the first line. So long as lower nature does persist, ego has you under its spell. So long as whole experience has not lifted you to the height of infinite joy and peace, so long as meekness, purity, and love do not adorn your expressed life, mind you, self-surrender is real for you. What is to be surrendered now, it is becoming clear. Surrender your little eye to the cosmic eye, relative to the absolute life, halting, stumbling, ignorant self to the flowing, all blissful, enlightened self. Do not be deceived that this is surrender, no? Prostrating before a saint or a deity is a surrender, no. If the prostrating goes along with this, that you are the embodiment of that spirit, who is within me, who is making me to prostrate before you, then the surrender becomes complete. The asher, do not be deceived, stand on means act on. Okay? Act on the ashes of your cremated ego. Thinking, talking, doing, everything with the feeling that he is making us to think, talk and do. Yeah. That means the ego is not there, cremated ego. Please think about it. This is a good that this question was raised. So that when I do Ramnam, when I do Seva, when I do Dhyana, this will overweigh, you know. Because triune path is the only path before us. But triune path is necessary to know that he is making us to do now. That is why Papa said, no, sadhana by itself. Sadhana is to know that sadhana by itself cannot take us there. Only when we know that he has blessed us with the sadhana to realize him. That means right from the start, he is making me to chant his name. He is making me to involve in, handle all that is needed during my waking state. He is the one who is behind my even inward journey. So it is not a verbal assertion. Ultimately, it zeroes to this. It's not a mental acceptance, but it's a state of consciousness. Consciousness of our original nature. It starts with the duality, I want to surrender, but then we try to realize, we try various methods, surrender is not happening. Then we try to look at who wants to surrender and how does he exist, where from he draws the energy. When that becomes clear, it becomes a consciousness where the seeker and the sought is not there. Because this is one of Papa's favorite subjects. The word, the truth, the great truth that underlies all that is seen and unseen. Why play on the surface? Dive deep within thyself and find this priceless pearl, the truth. Thy name, thy fame and wealth are bubbles that break and disappear in the twinkling of thine eye. Truth is eternal, thou art eternal. Know this and be ever free and blissful. Where is that sadhana? Hiranyagati Prabhuji. What is the English? Dive deep within, no? Dive deep within. No. Think. Nabed. Miranya Prabhu ji, Hoyi Saman, na? Hoyi Prabhu Saman.
Hoyi Prabhu Saman.
Padma is there.
And what is the Marathi name of that Marathi
poem? Padmaji, what is the English poem for that?
English, I don't know. I don't know English.
Okay, you know the heading, title of that song, Marathi?
Hiranyagati.
No, ma.
How many shall I bring Prem Sudha?
And dive within another again. To attain God is to godlike. Just as river reaching ocean becomes that self. In the depths of communion, in tune with the Spirit Divine, there is no distinction between the seeker and the sought. Dive within, know the truth. The soul itself is oversouled. Thy life, God's own life, thy body, His very form. For there is none but He, thou and He are one. So between the seeker and the sought, there is no distinction. So surrender is that state. That means so long as we continue to feel that I want to surrender, it can never become a reality. Though everybody can attempt like that only, and later on that I turns itself, instead of looking for some formula to surrender, it suddenly looks at itself and then finds that it exists only because of Him to whom we want to surrender. So one has to do this manana, and then probably some glimpses we may get, some clues, some light we will see. So it's a wonderful topic. It is good that it was taken up today. It has to be practiced. We keep on trying. We try to bring in this dimension in whatever sadhana we do, not merely a sadhana, that He is making me to do sadhana. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram. Pranam, pranam, pranam. Pranam, pranam. Ayo.
Rio Monty.
Ayo, ayo, ayo.
Dive within. Dive within. We got. We got, Auntie.
Just now we read,
Dive within. It is in English, dive within.
No, there are two dive within. First one.
One is dive deep, one is dive within.
ठीक है. Hey, you got it? No, that is important.
That's the meeting.
भेद तू